Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. We are at the end of August, and the last 7 days here in Chicago, the weather-wise, has been absolutely perfect. And I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. This summer has felt like I've been in literal hell. It's been absolutely hot. It's been like 90, 95 every single day. Crazy amount of humidity. It's been like 85% humidity. We've been having crazy thunderstorms basically every other day. Super duper windy. And when you mix all of that with the fact that I've been training and doing some of these races and events, I'm just at the point now in the summertime where I don't want to do any high intensity. I just want to relax, have fun on my bike, make videos. But because of that, that means that whenever I end up doing any of these local spicy rides, I have been on the super duper struggle bus. But anyway, with all that aside, in today's video, guys, we are doing another update on my Blackheart Road AL. As you guys know, if you've been following this channel for the last few months, this is my aluminum frame courtesy of Blackheart. So I just want to quickly go over some of the specs, some of the things that I have changed on this bike since I've had this bike now for over 6 months, and then give you my final thoughts. Huge shout out to Blackheart for sending me out this frame set. So without further ado, let's begin. Starting with the front end, I have been going back and forth between a 130 and a 140 millimeter length stem courtesy of Specialized, and I think that I have finally landed on a 140 stem specific to this frame set based on the geometry. This is a size 56, and what I like about having a 140 stem is it just gives me a little bit of extra reach on the front end, so I can be a little bit more comfortable in the drops as well as have a little bit of extra control. And as you guys can see, included with this frame set is the FSA number 69 headset system. And what's nice about this system is, should you choose to not go with an integrated cockpit directly from Blackheart, they'll provide you this system here where you can essentially use whatever stem you want and then be able to route the cables through this plastic top cap over the headset bearing. So that's a really nice touch, and the fit and finish, as you guys can clearly see, it is right on the money. And then the other really major change that I've made over these past 6 months with this frame set has to do with the wheels. So I've used a variety of different wheel sets with this frame set, everything from 45 millimeters depth, 50, and then 65. And I think for a final build spec on this, based on the fact that it's alloy and it has a little bit of a classic proportions to it, 50 millimeters is the way to go as far as wheel depth. So these wheels are courtesy of Carbon Speed. Shout out to Peter. These are by far the lightest set of wheels that I have ever featured on this channel. This set of 50 millimeter depth wheels come in at like 1,178 grams. We have ceramic bearings. We have a 54 tooth star ratchet hub, carbon spokes. The internal width on these bad boys is like 26 millimeters. The external width is around 34 millimeters, which stretches out these Continental GP5000 and a 28C size to around 31 millimeters at the rim. Crazy wide, and I am using TPU inner tubes for the time being. And with this wheel set, because they are so light and because I'm using TPU inner tubes over tubeless system, they just really make this alloy frame super sprightly. They accelerate exceptionally well, while also giving you the comfort you would expect with 31 millimeters at the rim. Bottom bracket wise is an external T47. This particular bottom bracket is courtesy of Nova Ride, and it does have ceramic bearings. I'll link somewhere down below where you can get 10% off of all of your products from Nova Ride. I really like this bottom bracket, and I have been using it on all my bikes for the last year and a half. This 1x chainring is courtesy of PassQuest, something that you can purchase on AliExpress. Unfortunately, due to the added fees now with shipping things to the United States, this is probably going to be closer to about $80 or $90. It's a 50 tooth design on it. Now, comparing this 1x chainring to the in-house SRAM, this isn't going to be as great, but it does a pretty good job of keeping the chain on the chainring. I've only had one chain drop ever, and that was when I was on this super duper fast training ride. And then the cranks we have, as you guys can see, this is the old first generation SRAM Force. We have a 170 carbon crank look keel blade pedals. I use these literally on all of my road bikes. Now, there's two reasons why I always have a soft spot for alloy frames. The first reason is one of my first proper road bikes on this channel was a Specialized LA Sprint in the rim brake version, and I really love that bike. In fact, to this day, I probably have ridden that bike the most, but because it was rim brake, I ended up having to sell it so that I can basically keep the channel going and be able to feature and review disc brake wheels. So that means I eventually went on to get the disc brake version of the LA Sprint, and I used that bike a lot. I used it for races, for fast group ride, and while it was a little bit heavy, I can really appreciate all of the features on that frame. And then the second reason why I always appreciate alloy frames is I just like the firmness and the immediate response that they provide. Compared to like a titanium frame, titanium frames are also really firm, but I've noticed that there's just this weird intangible way where it seems to really absorb energy rather than push that energy forward as far as like momentum and when you are stomping on the pedals. And I've just noticed in my own anecdotal way that with aluminum, you get that same immediate response as you would with carbon. And so with this Blackheart frame, I really appreciate what Blackheart is trying to do with both the designs, the proportions, and even the fact that a lot of people just really have a cult following when it comes to aluminum. Currently on Blackheart's website, the frame set comes in at $1,699 USD, and that's if you do not want a matching color fork. If you do want your fork to match the same color options as your frame set, then that's going to be an additional $200 at $1,899 USD. So for $1,900 all in, you'll get the frame set, you'll get all of the hardware that you need to build up the bike. Now, they do also offer complete bikes as well, and depending on the wheels, the frame set, etc., that will determine the final price. What's interesting about the price point, because this is something that each of us individually as consumers will have to decide whether or not you think this is worth it. I can tell you that I have plenty of friends here who have moved from California here to Chicago that has told me just how popular the Blackheart brand is in California. So it's very, very clear that the owner of Blackheart has done really good with exposing this frame to a lot of different athletes, a lot of different local riders in LA, down in San Diego, Bakersfield, wherever. So maybe you yourself may not feel like this might be worth the price, but that doesn't mean that it's completely overpriced. There are a lot of people who appreciate what Blackheart is trying to do. They're based in America. I like what they're doing, and not to mention, you also get custom color options that are included in the price, something that the bigger Western brands don't offer, especially at this price point. Final thoughts on the Blackheart Road AL bike. There's just something truly special about aluminum bikes, something that's really hard to describe in video form. They're firm, they're sprightly, they're playful, and just overall dynamically out on the road. All of these minor characteristics of aluminum just really translate to a super fun experience. The best way I can properly describe this aluminum bike is similar to like a late 90s Japanese sports car, something like a Civic Type R or a Supra or something like that. You know that those rides from like 25 years ago, you know they're not going to be the most luxurious or the most comfortable cars you've ever ridden, but they still offer just a level of customability, just being able to be really fun out on the road, something that you can really only get with aluminum. Now, dynamically out on the road, when it comes to the level of firmness and stiffness, it definitely is closer to that of carbon versus like with titanium. And I mentioned this before in my previous video from a different brand when it came to that titanium bike, particularly the Bossy Strada SS. When it comes to titanium is just a super comfortable ride, especially when you get over rough pavement. Somehow it's just able to really soak up and absorb those micro imperfections in the road. However, when it comes to putting down the power, it feels like at times that it's more absorbing some of that energy from the rider versus using that energy to help propel the rider forward. And with this bike, because it's aluminum, it has more of a characteristic similar to that of carbon, meaning that despite the fact that this bike is firm. The good part of that is when you are putting down the power, it really does propel the bike forward, something that's similar to a Specialized LA Sprint. Now, don't get me wrong, this bike compared to a LA Sprint, there definitely are for different demographics of athletes. For this bike, it's really all about the vibes, and it's very clear that this is the direction and the approach that Blackheart is trying to go for. It's not trying to be a crit bike. It's not trying to be the best climber of a bike. It's really for someone that just really wants one bike to rule them all for all the different applications. For example, if you find yourself more of a social rider or like a coffee rider, where maybe you occasionally want to hop into some fast group rides, this bike would be perfect for that. If you're someone that wants to express a little bit of your individuality and go with a custom paint option, something that Blackheart does include in the price point at $1,600, you can do that as well. If perhaps you travel a lot and you're worried about your carbon frame getting destroyed by the airlines, then aluminum is a fantastic option for that as well. And then just some of the other features on this frame set: it has T47 bottom bracket, which means it's easy to service. It has UDH out back, so if you want to use the latest SRAM 1x13 speed, you'll be able to do that as well. So just overall, guys, I would consider this bike all about the vibes. It's a jack of all trade bike. It corners very predictably. It's not going to do one specific thing exceptionally well, but it also is not going to be basically a noodle in any way on the downside of it all. Basically, it's a jack of all trades. It does all things pretty good, and it's a perfect bike for someone that really wants to focus on the lifestyle and the vibes when it comes to the cycling scene. So that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Once again, huge thank you to Blackheart for sending me out this aluminum frame set. Questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.